Welcome back. I'm Pamela Brown, live in Orlando, close to the Pulse nightclub where the deadliest mass shooting in American history happened. And I'm joined by the governor of Florida, Rick Scott. Governor, thank you so much for being here with us. I first want to talk about the visit with President Obama. He was here yesterday. What can you tell us about that?
Well, I want to thank him for coming. I talked to him on Wednesday. I have asked him for an emergency declaration to make sure we have all the federal resources. I did the same thing in my state on Sunday or Monday. I mean, these days are going so fast. You talk to so many people, and so. But I want to thank him for coming. So I spent most of my day yesterday talking to families, thanking people. I went to 2 viewings to grieve with the families, and it's hard. And then I met with some families outside the grieving process or outside of a viewing, and they're just in shock. I mean, they're young. These are young people. They were full of life. Clearly targeted our gay community, our Hispanic community. And so my job is to try to do everything I can to help them with the grieving process. If there are any needs, make sure we have those. Also gave heroes and medals to all the law enforcement officers involved in the shooting. Thank goodness there's people willing to risk their lives to save others, and they saved others. Went to the hospitals and thanked their workers for what they've done. Went to the 911 centers. They got the calls. I talked to the lady that got the call from the shooter and what impact that has on her life. So bring our city back to normal, bring our state back to normal, and grieve with the families is what I'm doing right now.
And we know those funerals are underway and will be over the next few days. There has been a lot of focus on gun control in the wake of this shooting. Did you talk to President Obama about that at all?
Well, yesterday wasn't about politics. So yesterday, was thanked him for coming. I think it was touching that he and the Vice President brought wreaths and put him. I had taken flowers there earlier in the week. I think that was nice. He met with the families, and I think that was a nice thing to do. Whoever's the president, I'd like him to do that for the people in my state. But right now, my job is to, I'll continue to go to viewings. I'll continue to go to funerals. I'll continue to reach out to the families and make sure they have all the resources that I can help them receive. And then just thank everybody. I mean, there's so many people. This has been, you've seen all the people have done things since and bring these communities all back together.
Yeah, absolutely. You said you've been meeting with the victims. President Obama has been very outspoken against gun control opponents, and he said he dares them to meet with the victims and see if that doesn't change their views on gun control. Has it changed your views at all, this experience meeting with the victims and the fact that it's easier to walk out with an AR-15 in the state of Florida than a handgun?
Well, nobody would think that anybody on a terrorist watch list should have a gun, right? That should, we all can agree that they should, we don't want somebody that's going to do something like that to be walking around with any weapons. But the Second Amendment didn't kill anybody. This is ISIS. This is evil. This is radical Islam. I'm tired of what's going on in our country, that we're not focused enough on ISIS. We had Steven Soloff, a journalist, beheaded in 2014. He was from Miami. Now we have 40 people slaughtered right here. When are we going to say to ourselves as a country, enough's enough? Let's focus on destroying ISIS. When we find information about somebody coming into our country, if we're not comfortable with you coming into our country, this is our country. Why are you coming here? And then if we do vet somebody and we allow them in, why won't we share that with our local law enforcement? So we can, if we feel like we need to, because we're responsible for public safety in our states. We're fortunately at a 45-year low in our crime rate, but I don't want anything like this to happen in my state ever again to any citizen.
No one does. Certainly no one does. My law enforcement sources, though, tell me that while ISIS may have played a role, there were other factors at play, that he more recently became radicalized. So, again, my question to you is, yes, ISIS terrorism could be to blame, but can you accept any responsibility for the gun laws here in Florida? The fact that it is easier to walk out of a gun store in half an hour with an AR-15 that can kill more people faster than a pistol, yet it's harder to get a pistol than an AR-15.
Let's remember, the Second Amendment's been around for over 200 years. It didn't. That's not what killed innocent people. Evil killed innocent people. There's going to be a time to have a conversation about what we do to make our state, our city, our country safer again. But let's have a conversation about how we destroy ISIS. Where's that conversation?
The conversation's there.
Yeah. Why are we not having that conversation about what are we doing? Why? I mean, I was on a call after the Paris attacks with the White House, and I said, will you share, if you allow a Syrian refugee into my state, will you share that information with me, your background checks? And they said no. Oh, come on, give me a break. I'm responsible for the public safety of the 20 million people in my state, the 100 million tourists, and you have information about somebody you're allowing to come to my state or moving to my state, and you won't share it. That's wrong.
Understandably, that's frustrating. Just to put a button on this, you know, in the wake of any tragedy, you learn. Lessons are learned,
right.
No doubt. Hopefully there will be changes there in your view. But will you push for any changes in the gun laws in Florida in the wake of this?
I think whenever something like this happens, you always have a conversation about what you should do, you know, afterwards, right? And we're going to have that conversation. But let's have this conversation about how we're going to stop ISIS. I mean, where's that conversation? Where's the conversation about stopping radical Islam? You know, what are we going to do?
In a situation like this, where he is being radicalized online, self-radicalized by all this propaganda being put out by ISIS, I mean, how do you stop that?
Destroy
what
ISIS.
Do you do?
If ISIS wasn't in the world, there would be, destroy ISIS. The first thing you do, go to the core. This is caused by ISIS being there. What are we doing to stop them?
Now, the FBI has said that this is not only ISIS, but that this is a hate crime. Do you also view this as a hate crime as well?
It's
targeting
evil.
The gay community?
Oh, I mean, this is evil, and they targeted the gay community. They targeted the Hispanic community. You can just, without even meeting with the families, look at the names.
Last question for you. The money that's being poured in for these victims, how can you assure them that it will get to them to help them pay their bills and funeral services, all that's going on right now?
Well, we're raising money at the state level, and I know the city's raising money at their level. We will, part of our responsibility as state government is make sure, to the extent we can, you ought to look at how you're doing it. But you as a citizen, watch where you give the money. Look at the background of where you're giving that money. And then we ought to be transparent. Like, I know what the state will do, we'll be very transparent with where our money goes. And I hope everybody else that raises money will do the same thing.
Okay, Governor Rick Scott, thank you very much. We
Thanks
do appreciate you coming on. And we'll be right back.